Good day, everyone. My topic is all about school mapping.
As a learner centered public institution, the Department of Education continuously improves itself to better serve its stakeholders. Educational institutions will become a critical component in planning process about definition of programs, allocation of resources, and other critical decisions.
School mapping is a dynamic process of planning the distribution, size, and spacing of schools and physical facilities requirements for optimum utilization and benefit. Here are the process of school mapping. The process of school mapping covers the following specific areas for expansion and improvement of facilities. First, rationalization of existing facilities by locating existing schools and determining its vulnerability to various geological and hydrometeorological hazards. New schools must be located outside areas already identified to be within hazard zones. Shifting closure or amalgamation or integration of institution and optimum utilization of buildings, equipments, and furnitures. School mapping process number 2 is the provision of new or additional facilities. First is the opening of new schools or upgrading existing ones. Second is the providing additional teaching and non-teaching staffs. And providing new or additional building, furniture, and equipment in institutions, etc. Initial steps in school mapping. First is the diagnosis of the existing situation. The initial step in school mapping is to make a survey of the existing situation in order to obtain all information about the networks of schools and their physical resources and means, considering the following factors. First is the environmental or geographic factors, include both natural rivers and mountains, and man-made source of electricity, roads, railways, communication networks, and other features. Demographic factors. It pertains to such characteristics of population as size, growth, density, social structure, migratory trends, school dropouts, and retention rates. Next is the economic factors. This refers to per capita income, commercial establishments, mass media, size of schools or classes, and etc. Educational factors. This includes the number of study hours per week and their distribution by subjects, the number of pupils or students per class, normal lengths of time for which premises shall be used, and the possibility of introducing double shift teachers' working hours. Political factors. This covers those political and policy priorities and constraints which usually dictate the creation or expansion of specific types of educational institutions. Next is the manpower factors. Refers to the present and future structures of employment which generally affect the relative weights in educational contents and diversification. Drawing up of prospective school map. The school map produced shall not be regarded as final unless it has been considered and discussed by central administrators, local authorities, teachers, and parents. Here are the basic data needed for school mapping. Education data. We have annual statistical report, geographical distribution of schools, sites and catchment area conditions, and lastly, the size of the existing school plant. Here are the expected results of school mapping. First, school building requiring repairs. Second, schools requiring additional classrooms. Third, opening of new schools. Fourth, phasing out of existing schools. Fifth, resource allocation. Sixth, environmental mapping. Here is the example of methodological stages in the preparation of a detailed local school map. Specific outputs of school mapping. A. Prioritization of schools based on identified set of criteria. Example: selection of place to open a school, taking note of available resources as well as vulnerability of location to both natural and man-made hazards. B. Identifying the location of new schools. Based on the identified radial distance from existing schools or barangay. Attention in range. Example, walking distance from nearest school's facilities. C. Grouping of entries based on a defined set of attributes. For example, the availability of land, local distribution. The school mapping exercise of DepEd. The school mapping exercise is a tool which marks the departure from the normal way of doing things at the DepEd. School mapping exercise is a demand-driven approach for educational planning as well as the tool for decision-making of schools department in a rational and efficient manner. The component of school mapping exercise are database planning, graphic information system-based school profiling system. Last is the capacity building of regional division office and local government units or LGUs. The SME shall be able to describe the community situation or identify the population centers and point out the demands for the schools based on population trend. Here are the examples of schools.
Conclusion. We dream of Filipinos who passionately love their country with competencies and values able to contribute meaningfully to build the nation. School plant as major aspects has a greater impact to the learners. It plays a major role in fostering the development of sanitation, safety, and healthful habits among learners and teachers. The importance of school mapping in school plant is to align the supply and demand of education by considering the existing situation. With all the schools database, we will be able to understand the education system better.
And that's all about my report. Thank you for listening.